You know how everyone on the internet talks about AI taking over the world? Well, this is the story of one of the actual people steering that future. A kid who was beating adults at chess before most of us learned multiplication. Programmed a hit video game at 17 that paid his way through Cambridge. Then built the AI that beat the world champion in Go, and later won a Nobel Prize for using AI to crack a 50-year-old biology problem. His name is Demis Hassabis. He runs Google DeepMind. And understanding his story is like getting a cheat sheet for where AI and your career might be heading. Welcome to Tech Central. Let's jump in. Picture this. London in 1980s, a 4-year-old kid watches his family play chess and asks if he can try. Within a few years, that kid Demis is not just good at chess. By 13, he is a chess master, rated around 2300 ELO, captaining England's youth team and beating grown adults. And he's not only doing chess, he uses his prize money to buy a tiny computer, a ZX Spectrum, at age 8. He teaches himself to code by reading programming books. One of his first projects? Programming his own version of the board game Othello. So by the time most of us are trying to survive school, Demis is basically living in 3 worlds: competitive chess, school, and late night coding. Fast forward a bit. He blasts through his exams early, gets into Cambridge, but they say, "You're too young, take a year off." That gap year changes everything. He enters a game development contest and wins, and lands a job at a legendary studio called Bullfrog. At age 17, he gets his first job and becomes lead programmer and co-designer of a game you might know, Theme Park. The amusement park simulator that went on to sell millions of copies. Think about that. At age 17, he ships a hit game, wins a Golden Joystick Award, and the royalties from that game pays his way through Cambridge. After Cambridge, Demis goes back into games. The games get attention, awards, cult fans, but running a studio is brutal. Delays, scope creep, business pressure, the usual startup cocktail. After about 7 years, he does something that most founders absolutely hate to do. He shuts the studio down, sells the IP, walks away. From the outside, that looks like a failure. But here's the twist. Right at this time, Demis is also quietly destroying people at Mind Sports. He's not just a chess kid anymore. At the Mind Sports Olympiad, this Olympics of strategy games, he wins the all-around title, the pantomime. Not once, but 5 years in a row. So you've got ex-game studio founder, world-class mind gamer, and he basically asks himself, okay, I've spent my life playing with intelligence in games. What if I actually study how the brain itself works and then try to build intelligence for real? Instead of starting another game, he goes back to university, not to chill, to do a PhD in cognitive neuroscience at UCL. He switches from making games to asking, how does the brain imagine, remember, and plan? That's a pretty insane career pivot, and it sets up everything that comes next. In his PhD, Demis works on memory and imagination. He works with patients who have damage to a part of the brain called the hippocampus. These people can't remember their past properly. But Demis and his team discover something deeper. They also can't imagine new future scenarios. So, the same part of the brain that helps you remember your last holiday also helps you simulate your next one. The brain is basically a simulation engine. He finishes his PhD, does research at MIT and Harvard, works with the top neuroscientists and machine learning people, and then he does Demis thing again. Okay, I've studied how neural intelligence works. Time to try and build artificial intelligence properly. And that's where DeepMind starts. Demis Hassabis, Shane Legg, and Mustafa Suleiman start a little company in London, DeepMind Technologies. Their mission statement is so bold it almost sounds like a meme. Solve intelligence and then use that to solve everything else. But they're not joking. Their idea is to use games as a training ground, use neuroscience ideas as inspiration, use machine learning as the engine. In 2013, they show the world their first big result, an AI that learns to play old Atari games just from the screen pixels. No hard-coded rules. It just figures it out by trial and error. That paper gets published in Nature. Google, Facebook, and others try to buy them. In 2014, Google wins the bidding and acquires DeepMind for around $500 million. Now we get to the part of the movie everyone remembers. Go. For years, Go was considered basically impossible for AI. 5-game match in Seoul, cameras everywhere, 200 million people watching worldwide. AlphaGo wins 4-1. Experts thought this was 10 to 20 years away, and it's not winning because it's just calculating faster. It's playing weird, creative, human-like moves nobody has ever seen before. But the craziest part of his story isn't even in games, it's AlphaFold. DeepMind takes their AI and points it at one of the hardest problems in biology, predicting how proteins fold in 3D. This is the kind of thing that affects drug discovery, vaccines, enzymes that might break down plastic, and much more. AlphaFold cracks it so well that the biology world basically goes, okay, this is a turning point. It's so impactful that in 2024, Demis Hassabis and his colleague John Jumper win the Nobel Prize in Chemistry for using AI to predict protein structures. Think about that for a second. A kid who once made a theme park video game to fund his studies now wins a Nobel Prize in Chemistry without ever being a traditional chemist. Alright, so what can you learn from this story and actually use? Use your hobby as a training ground. Demis didn't treat chess and games as just fun. He used them to train pattern recognition, focus, and strategy, then later reused all of that in AI and research. Stack skills instead of staying in one lane. His real edge isn't being the best at one thing, it's the combination. Games, neuroscience, computer science, entrepreneurship. Take what you already know and add one more field that most people around you ignore. That overlap is where you become hard to replace. Let failures point you to a bigger game. Shutting down Elixir Studios could have been the end. Instead, he used it as a pivot into neuroscience and then DeepMind. So, that's Demis Hassabis, the chess prodigy, game developer, neuroscientist, AI founder, Nobel laureate, and the guy playing poker with Magnus Carlsen after changing the future of biology. Thanks for watching Tech Central. See you in the next one.